Good afternoon. Today is February 7th, 2024. My name is Joe Reingold, and I'm here with Jill Neuwelt. Hello, Jill. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. First of all, tell us a little bit about your background, whatever you know about your grandparents, your parents, where they lived, what they did for a living maybe, and how they came here.
Well, my grandparents and my parents didn't come here. I came all by myself.
Oh, okay.
I grew up in Vienna, Austria. My parents survived the war. My mom in England. My dad, they were in their 20s, went through Scandinavia, through Russia, to Japan, and ended up in Seattle and joined the American military. He was, I don't know if you know about Camp Ritchie. Camp Ritchie is where the refugees were kind of indoctrinated into the American life and system and the American army, and he had a wonderful time actually at Camp Ritchie. He met up with some Viennese Jewish friends that he knew. He said he was taught various interesting things like what is the World Series and and that men wear their watches inside their arms and not outside their arms like they do in Europe, things like that. Of course, they all spoke, if they spoke English at all, they spoke with a very heavy German accent, so I'm not quite sure how effective all this tutoring was. My father was sent to London as an American soldier to work, for the, I think he was supposed to translate German communications, but he says he never, when he was there, found anything interesting. Turn off?
No, go ahead.
In Vienna was this expatriate Viennese community, and he met up with my mom there, who he knew by sight from Vienna, and they got married in 1944 in London. At that time, she was a British soldier, so she was wearing a British uniform, he was wearing an American uniform, and they got married in London. After the war was over, they decided to move back to Vienna, since my dad had an Austrian law degree, and he just loved Vienna. He just loved the Viennese culture, and he rationalized, saying that the people that he knew who joined the Nazi Party, it was a matter of unemployment, and it was just kind of a I guess he just forgave them and tried to understand where they were coming from. My mother never felt that way, but she agreed to move back to Vienna. At that time, Vienna was under American occupation, so we came as an American, and we lived I was born in 1948 in a very nice house. We had staff. Because obviously, as an American, he was very comfortable, especially compared to Austrians who really had nothing. I know that my parents were able to shop at the PX, and they were able to pay their household help with coffee and stuff that they didn't have, chocolates and cigarettes, especially cigarettes. My parents didn't smoke, but they got allocated cartons of cigarettes, and we had like a gardener, and I'm sure that my parents just paid him with cigarettes that he probably sold on the black market. So anyhow, in 1955, when the Americans left Austria, my parents had 4 children, and my mom really wanted to move to the United States, whereas my dad felt that he could not be able to support his 4 children. Plus, as I said, he loved Vienna. His English wasn't good. My mom's English was very good because she had spent the entire war in England. So they decided, though, that they would stay in Vienna. But I grew up in Vienna, always, especially for my mom, with the push, you should live as an adult, eventually move to the United States. My mom got an American citizenship through my dad, and at that time, naturalized citizens had the obligation to live in the United States for at least 6 months, I think after 5 years. My mom had a PhD in psychology, and she got a job when I was 10 years old in Arkansas, in Little Rock, Arkansas. So she took my older brother and me to Little Rock, where we spent a year. I was 10. And then 4 years later, she got the job. She loved that job. She loved Little Rock. She loved the academic community there. And my two little brothers at that time stayed with my father. And in 4 years later, she took my two younger brothers to Little Rock, where they spent a year. My dad and her idea was that she could probably support the family with her psychology, and my dad would eventually maybe teach a sociology course, or he would find a job. My dad, though, was very anxious and nervous about moving to the United States. He had a nervous breakdown. It was a terrible year. I was, a teenager with my brother, who was 2 years older, and a very depressed father. So she came back. But the pressure was still there to move to the United States for her children. We had very little Jewish cultural background. As a matter of fact, we went to the French school because my parents did not see us being in an Austrian public school. So we were at the French school. Of course, while my mom was in the United States, my dad depressed, my neighbors, who kind of all tried to be busybodies in our family, in a very kind of broken family, decided that why am I going to a French school? They took me out of the French school, and one of my neighbors was a teacher in an Austrian school, and they enrolled me in the local neighborhood Austrian school. So I was in a French school until I was 13. Let me go. Okay, now I lost my train of thought.
You're a teenager.
Yeah, I was a teenager. I was not quite sure what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. When I graduated from high school, I started at the university studying interpreting, because I was fluent in English and in French already because of my schooling and my year in Little Rock. But I was not a very dedicated student. I was really more, I don't know, I just did not have a whole lot of direction. And so I decided to go to Israel because I was always conflicted about my Jewish identity. And I spent 8 months on 2 kibbutzim in Israel. And that was really an eye-opening and a transformative experience for me.
Israel was a young country then. What year were you there? Israel was very young.
It was in 1968.
Oh.
It was after the Six-Day War.
Oh, okay.
And it was an exciting time to be there. And I really loved it. I did not want to stay in Israel. But it was a really transformative. It was the first time that I met people who are actually proud of being Jewish and are comfortable with being Jewish. When I grew up, my Jewish background was always, I was embarrassed about it because we were the losers. We were the losers. And actually a lot of people that I later as an adult found out had Jewish background my age, we would never talk about it. French school had quite a few Jewish students, obviously, children of camp survivors, and but we never talked about it, and I had absolutely no religious education. My grandmother, my father's mother, survived the war, also in the United States, and eventually came back to Vienna when she needed more care. And she would come to our house, Passover time with matzah, and I had no idea what she was talking about. So anyhow, I got a job with my language skills at Expo 67 in Montreal, working in the Austrian Pavilion as a hostess, so that was kind of fun. And then I came back to Vienna in the middle of the school year, and actually, I'm sorry, that was before I went to Israel, and then I had time on my hands, so I went to Israel. Then I got a job with an Austrian export Christmas candle company. They exported No. Then I went to social work school in Vienna for 2 years. And it is, I would say, it was probably equivalent to an associate's degree. Social work was not very well respected in Austria. It was not very interesting, but my mom kind of pushed me that way. My mom actually is a psychologist and eventually became the director of the School of Social Work. She kind of pushed me into it. She said, I need a job.
A focus.
Focus, yes, and a degree or something. So I said, okay, well, I'll go to social work school, fine, leave me alone. So I did. And after I graduated, I did get a job with an Austrian Christmas candle company. They sold Austrian Christmas candles in department stores in the United States, and I was one of 3 candle experts, I guess, who went from September to December into department stores in the United States. I started out in Macy's in New York, but then we got our individual cities. And I would go from departments and do a nice display of the Christmas candles. There was usually an ad in the paper that said, meet the Austrian Christmas candle expert. And I would give the American customers a spiel about that my candles were sold to the Austrian emperor, and stupid. But anyway, my job was over at Christmas, and my last stop was Sanger Harris in Dallas, Texas, and that's how I ended up in Dallas. Dallas turned out to be also transformative for my life. I met in the department store a very homesick Austrian who asked me to spend Christmas with her. And I had I was not very excited about going back to Vienna. And my boyfriend had written me that he had broken up with me. And I was not very excited to go back to Vienna. And I thought at that time America was very progressive. And I was hoping to meet a hippie and a Vietnam protester, or,
An activist.
An activist, yes. So anyhow, she asked me to move in with her. And she was actually also a homesick Austrian, my age, who had followed an American whom she had met at a disco in Vienna, and she had high hopes that he was going to marry her. And when she came to Dallas, he was shocked. And he, so she was also kind of like a lost person in Dallas. And they lived in a one-bedroom apartment with her roommate. And I stayed on the living room couch. It turns out her roommate was a graduate student of social work at UTA in Arlington. And I told her that I had a degree in social work. So she said, you have to go to my school and see my school. So she took me to the school and introduced me to the director of admissions. And the director of admissions said it would be so interesting to have a foreign student here. And so I said, well, I don't have any money, and I really hadn't planned on staying here. So somehow, and school started the following fall. So I decided, well, maybe I should look for a job here. I did have dual citizenship because I was born, when my dad was an American. So I ended up with Walter Levy. Somebody told me there's this guy with a German accent who will probably like you and help you. And so I ended up with Walter Levy, who was director of Jewish Federation at that time. Well, Walter was not very helpful in finding me a job, but he wanted me to fix me up with every man he knew. So, but he didn't really, he was not successful. But through Walter, I got in touch with the National Council of Jewish Women, who at that time offered a 2-year scholarship to graduate students of social work. And I met with the ladies of NCJW, very, very nice people. I think it was chaired by a woman by the name of Evelyn Eldridge. And I remember there was a very nice lady by the name of, I think her name was Sharon Goldstein, who actually had me over for dinner. Lovely, lovely women. then I guess I was kind of a natural because, here I was, a Jewish woman from Austria who wanted to study social work. So I got the scholarship, and it was a 2-year program, and I had to sign on a dotted line that I would work as a social worker in the Dallas area for a year. And when I realized what I had done, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be 26 by the time I get to leave. But it was just, it was transformative. I did go to graduate school. They admitted me because they said that Austrian schools are harder, or I did okay on the GRE. So they figured I had a bachelor's for some reason. And it was very stressful. It was very lonely. I moved in the first year with roommates who knew each other from college that I had very little in common with. In the second year, I stayed in a small apartment in Arlington. I had trouble finding a car in my price range, and my parents didn't understand why I needed a car, because in Vienna you use public transportation. They thought I'd become spoiled, and I had trouble. I hitchhiked to my field placements. I had a field placement at the Edna Gladney home. I don't know if that still exists in Fort Worth, where it was very actually unhappy. I had a couple of dates. Finally, when I graduated, I got a job with the JCC in Dallas, and I was in charge of the tween department, which was also a very difficult job because the 10 to 13-year-olds, they studied for their bar mitzvahs, they had piano lessons, and it was kind of my job to develop a program. And I had a hard time. The JCC was not pretty at that time either, and I had a hard time getting them to come to the JCC and justifying I felt a full-time job. My only really successful job was Saturday night. I chartered a bus every Saturday night, and the kids would come, and I would take them bowling or skating or whatever I could think of. But the problem was also I wanted to date Saturday night. And then I finally had a blind date with who became my husband, with Ed. And he loved being a camp counselor, and he loved Saturday nights going with me to chase down the kids and do activities with them. So, so I started dating Ed. And so as you see, Dallas was very transformative in my life. Do you have any other questions?
And you're still here.
Well, I'm here again.
Again?
Again, my husband, Ed, at that time was a resident at Parkland Hospital, and he for his Vietnam obligation, he actually went into the public health service, and so we did marry. We got married in Vienna. I told in German. It was a civil wedding. And I told my husband, when I clear my throat, just say ja, which is still probably the only German word he knows. So I actually know his parents came. Ed is from Indiana, actually, and he went to medical school. He went to Northwestern, and went to medical school in Colorado, and then he did his residency here. And his parents came from Vienna, from Indiana, from Lafayette, Indiana. And they asked me to do up on the short version or the long version. I thought, well, they're coming all the way. Of course, they don't speak German, but let's have the long version anyway. And during the talk, I cleared my throat, and Ed said loud, "Ja," and the ceremony stopped, and then the official continued. So anyhow, so after he graduated, he joined the faculty at Southwestern Medical School. Then we spent, during his residency, actually 2 years in Baltimore, which was wonderful. And felt at that time that Dallas was not going to be my home. The values were different than I wanted. I didn't like the scenery. There was no place pretty to go on the weekend. There's no place to go hiking. So Ed actually had an interview at the medical school in Portland, Oregon. And I got off the airplane, and at that time I already had a 3-year-old daughter. I saw the snow-covered mountains, and I said, Ed, I don't care what this job is, you're taking it. And he did. So we raised our children. We had 2 more children after that. We raised our 3 children in Portland, Oregon. But wouldn't you know, my daughter, after college, went to visit her grandma in Vienna and married the neighbor. So she now lives in Vienna. My middle daughter went to medical school too, and she got a residency at Parkland Hospital in Dallas. So she lives here now with her adorable 3 little girls. And then my son lives in Virginia. He's an oncologist, and he lives in Virginia. And we were by ourselves in Portland, Oregon. At present time, my husband has Parkinson's disease, and he's declining. And with no children in Portland, it was, I guess, logical for us to be closer to family.
To one of them, at least. Yeah.
My daughter found the Legacy Midtown. She toured it. She liked it. I have very close friends in Portland. I've been in Portland for all my adult life, and I think that your close friends are the parents of the other children. So, so it was a very difficult decision, but we've been now at the Legacy Midtown since the beginning of November. So now it's February, so it's November, December, January, 4 months. Dallas has changed a lot since 1980 when we left it. I like it better now. I've enjoyed concerts at the Meyerson. It's become a little more, the values are a little, at least here at the Legacy, people seem to be more open-minded than the people that I used to know. I'm still in touch with the Levy family. Walter's now over 100, and I've seen him a couple of times. I enjoy the Jewish context. We're not religious, but culturally, I like the Legacy. The food is good. So I.
What things have you gotten involved in the community, civic or Jewishly, since you've been back?
Really not much. First of all, my husband really does need full-time care now. And I've developed, I'm in the process, or it's going to be published, a newsletter for the residents here. My main focus has been, I've been trying to meet people at the Legacy. I have an old friend that I'm still in touch with, Joan Gremont. She's from South Africa.
I know Joan.
I love Joan.
Yeah.
And she's involved in tutoring children. I have also gone to the Holocaust Museum to their training program. But quite frankly, I've not been able, between caretakers, I've not been able to carve enough time out for myself to really get involved in an organization. I'm trying to get to know people here. I think I'm the youngest one living here.
No, I know younger.
Well, good, you introduced me.
Mm-hmm.
But I find actually that some of the 90-year-olds are healthier than my husband, who's 75. So the atmosphere here is very nice. People are very friendly, and that helps a lot. you know, we still have a house in the woods in Oregon. Hopefully I can go there in the summer when it's like 110 degrees here. And hopefully my Portland friends will visit me there. I think they will. It's a, you know, it's a lovely, it's just a lovely place. It's in Central Oregon, and you know, the deer come right to your house, and there's woods, and there's lakes and snow-covered mountains. So yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. Then that's kind of where Dallas has really influenced my life, and I don't know if I'm going to stay here for the rest of my life, but right now I enjoy my little grandkids, and I appreciate my daughter taking the responsibility to move us here, and see where it goes.
That's wonderful. I do have a quick question. In your life, you've had some various wonderful experiences and some trying ones. Is there anybody you can think of that you would consider your mentor through the years?
Well, I think that Walter has definitely influenced my life. When I was here really kind of lost without knowing anybody in Dallas, I spent every Jewish holiday with him, and I knew his parents, Omi and Opa, and of course his 4 daughters. Unfortunately, you know, 2 of them have passed away. I think that that he has certainly influenced my life as much as anybody, and his wife Hilma too, of course. In terms of mentor, well, you know, I think that my whole Jewish identity kind of prospered in Portland. My kids are all bar mitzvahed. I've met some wonderful people through our congregation. I think that if we stay here, eventually we will join a congregation here. My daughter is not married my daughter's married to a non-Jew, but she would like to see her children have more. There's actually a very wonderful Jewish camp in Oregon that my daughter, the middle daughter who lives in Dallas, has gone to every year, and she became a CIT and a counselor. And my 9-year-old granddaughter has gone there twice now, and she's looking forward to going back this summer. It's on the Oregon coast, and it's lovely. And that's really where everything Jewish that she knows is from there, and she loves it. So I think my daughter, who has a job, is, you know, she kind of feels, I think, overwhelmed taking her to Sunday school, but maybe that could be my job. And yeah, so I didn't really answer your question.
No, you did. Of all the things you've done, can you think of something outstanding that you're really, really proud of? A project or something you've worked on that you...
Yeah, my last 10 years of my professional life, I was a social worker at Jewish Family Services in Portland. Mm-hmm. And it was a part-time job, and I was in charge of their Holocaust survivor program. Oh. And I know that, first of all, I became very close to the Holocaust survivors, because we had a lot in common, probably more than an American-born social worker would have had. Especially, I noticed as they got older, you know, especially German refugees, they would start saying a half a sentence in German and half in English. But also I had, I think I was more able to help them with reparations because I speak German. Mm-hmm. And I knew of things that I think other social workers from Jewish Family Service are not aware of, like Social Security payments that they could apply to from Germany and Austria. And I had no problem calling them and in the middle of the night, you know, because it's a 9-hour difference, and speak to them in their language and get payments for them. It was a very, very gratifying job. You know, as more Russians came to Portland, Russian refugees, and the Western or the Polish refugees started dying. I was eventually, with my consent, replaced by a Russian-speaking social worker. We had a very nice social group called Cafe Europa. We met, and I baked for them. I made Austrian kind of food that they enjoyed, apple strudel and apricot cakes and things like that, strudels, poppy seed strudels. So they enjoyed coming to my Cafe Europa, where I would get a speaker for them or a musical program. And it just, I feel that I developed a very nice survivor community. And I'm actually still in touch with some of my survivors here via Facebook or email. And yeah, so I would say that is...
That was gratifying.
That's
very
very
good.
gratifying,
Mm.
yeah.
Maybe you can find something similar here.
Well, a lot of the Holocaust survivors have passed away,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
but I mean, Jewish Family Service is extremely active here. It has all kinds of wonderful
Yeah, I'm not
programs.
sure. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just a thought.
Yeah. I'm open to it.
Yeah.
As I said, I went to the Holocaust Museum and I did their training here. I don't know if I really know. I think before you become a docent, you kind of stand around and just shepherd people around. I don't know. I just don't know if the time when I have a caregiver here for my husband is really valuable to me. And so, I have not committed to anything.
Good. That's okay. Well, we're happy you're here, and I hope you continue to enjoy being here at the Legacy and getting involved and just having a good time here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.